All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me at the 8th Annual Denver Startup Week, the largest free entrepreneurial event of its kind. Be sure to share your experience at this session online using hashtag DenStartupWeek. My name is Carly Cheton, and today I'm going to be sharing with you how you can use competitive intelligence to fail-proof your strategy to scale. I wanted to provide a quick overview of the session itself. I'll first kick off with an introduction for really what the impact of competitive intel can be for your startup. I'll then dive into 3 essential simple steps that you can use to design and launch your own intel function. And then I'll also share with you what I refer to as your free intel toolkits. These are tools that you're going to be able to use to advance your competitive edge. A little bit of background on me. I have a background in brand strategy and market and competitive intelligence. I founded my own consultancy, Lumina Brand Intelligence, this past March. My consulting approach focuses on combining branding and intelligence disciplines to remove the guesswork from go-to-market strategies and ultimately create identities for competitive advantage. Before I actually started my own business, I have experienced bootstrapping a competitive intel platform for an $850 million enterprise software company, all on a $0 budget. And I'm very excited about the potential for competitive intel for you because it's really easy to set up, but the scope of its potential for impact is massive. So some key areas in which competitive intel can actually benefit you as a startup. The first is that you're going to be able to more confidently articulate your differentiated value add to investors, because there's no way to be sure of how your product stands out in the market if you don't thoroughly understand who else is operating in your space. The second piece is optimizing your sales engine to close more deals more quickly and more often. So when you have that confident expertise on how your products are differentiated from competitors, you're going to be able to hone a messaging strategy that closes and closes quickly. You'll also be able to better define your opportunities as part of the market validation process. So that means being able to identify other vendors that are serving similar customer needs, gauging their level of traction, and understanding who they're targeting and how well it's working for them. When you have this understanding, you're ultimately going to be able to reverse engineer a blueprint of what's worked for others and craft a strategy that builds off that approach, but more importantly, sets you apart from that. You'll also be able to identify new channels for scaling your reach to target customers by understanding where your competitors are playing and, more importantly, where they are not, allowing you to position yourself in less saturated environments. You'll also be able to more nimbly and flexibly achieve market leadership, as when you're tracking competitive developments in real time with intelligence, you're equipped to embrace and respond to new market trends in a proactive way, allowing you to outpace and outperform the competition to obtain leadership. And the last piece is really where market intel shines, is that's really the risk mitigation piece of really filling your knowledge gaps on what market unknowns are presented to you. So when you have an advanced understanding of your context that you're performing in, you're going to be able to avoid the need for costly pivots by ensuring that you're on track with trends at the start. So this comes to life in terms of ensuring your pricing model makes sense, or ensuring that you're serving all relevant customer needs with your features and functionality. And I'll add to this as well, even when you spend 6 months or 6 weeks on market validation, the truth is that your findings aren't static. So being able to flag new market trends or competitive pressures is going to ensure that you always have a full understanding of the environment that you're operating in. So there's 3 simple steps that I recommend you take to design and launch that intel function, which you can start with today. The first is establishing your key intelligence topics, which focus in that scope of your analysis. The second is auditing the current competitive environment to determine others' existing strategies. This is what I refer to as your intel baseline. And the third piece is setting up competitive monitoring to proactively identify risks as they arise. So the first step here is the establishment of your key intelligence topics, which offer that organizational framework for your competitive intel function. So these should be selected to fill your biggest and most important market landscape knowledge gaps. Some example focus areas that you can think about for keeping on track of top competitive developments include corporate strategy updates, so looking at new go-to-market investments, M&A, partnerships, leadership composition, and even financial performance if your competitors are publicly traded. You'll then want to dig into product suites, not just the current state of them, but if there's any inklings of new R&D investments that they seem to be talking about, maybe in interviews or in industry publications. The third piece is looking at their execution of their marketing strategy across email, social media, blog posts, and website design and content updates. Reputation is a really big piece, both internally and externally. On the internal side, you want to look at how competitors are positioning themselves from an investor relations and public relations perspective. And then externally, you want to look too at how they're being perceived in the market by customers and review forums, as well as how employees are talking about what it's like to work for the competitor, maybe on Glassdoor or something like that. The last piece is really keeping tabs on new market entrants with disruptive potential as they come to the surface of the market. Another key way to keep track of this is looking at industry publications and really keeping a finger on the pulse of what's going on more broadly outside of specific individual competitors' activities. Step 2 is really going to focus on auditing your competitor strategies as they exist today. So this is what I refer to as that Intel baseline. Where it has the greatest potential for impact for your startup is it's when you have this robust starting understanding of each competitor that's in play for your market stature, you're going to be able to understand how their market pursuits are going to evolve over time and be able to develop strategies that more effectively help to combat that. To get started with this audit, I want you to start thinking about resources that you can pull together in line with each of your established key intelligence topics. So I am limited to a 10-minute presentation today, but these are some of the tools that I personally used in my experience in building out a competitive intel platform for that enterprise software company. There's a lot of information here, and I'm definitely available to connect following the session today to talk through how you can actually use each of these tools. But they do run the gamut across those key intelligence topic examples that I recommended as a starting point for you. Really good tools within here. Obviously, based upon the volume of information that you're going to be reading and distilling through and analyzing from each of these platforms as a key input, you're going to want to stay organized as much as possible because it can get overwhelming very quickly depending on the number of competitors that you're tracking as well. So some key tools that I use here and that I would definitely recommend. The first is a Chrome extension called Super Simple Highlighter, and this is a godsend for research that involves in-depth, long-form articles. Maybe there's a sentence or two in like a very long 500-page article about how maybe a competitor's product is patented or something like that. You ultimately want to highlight that, and that's actually going to save to a repository that you can access for future access, so you don't have to comb back through long-form articles after you initially uncover that information. Pocket is a great tool for flagging articles and videos in one place for future access, both offline and online. Screenshot is my go-to screenshot tool that actually allows you to paste screenshots, but also automatically save them into a designated folder that you can create for competitors. And PowerPoint is my go-to for keeping all findings contained in one document that's ready to share with others. You can keep your attributions and reference links organized by actually including them into the notes for each slide so that you can keep track of where each piece of insight is coming from. And the last piece of really constructing your own competitive intel function, this is the configuration of a proactive competitive monitoring piece. So obviously in step 2, you're able to arrive at some conclusions that are going to help you stand out in your market landscape today. But the truth is that your competitive position is anything but static. So continuing to monitor your competitor strategies over time is going to allow you to more nimbly respond when they unveil new developments or begin executing on new strategies. So your Intel Toolkit for this third piece of proactively monitoring competitive activity. Feedly is the first tool that I highly recommend. It is a content aggregator, or what I refer to as a beastly RSS feed, if you know what that is. But this allows you to track your competitors' websites, and every time a new piece of marketing or PR piece of content is published, Feedly then takes that information and puts it into a nice, easy to digest competitive news feed for you. And you're ultimately able to flag articles and save them to specific folders for future reading. Visual Pig is an amazing tool that tracks competitors' websites and actually sends notifications every time there's a change to their design or their content. The Org is a new up-and-coming competitive intel tool that allows you to follow established competitors and receive updates every time there's a change in their leadership composition. This is probably best for monitoring the 800-pound gorillas in your space, maybe not the startups, but as they continue to advance in their capabilities, I think this is going to be a staple competitive intel tool. And the last piece is Owl Letter, which is an awesome tool for marketers, and that is aggregating competitive emails and organizing them into a simple dashboard for your review. This is really big if you don't want to subscribe to all of your competitors' email newsletters, but you want to be able to keep tabs on how those campaigns are evolving over time. Owl Letter helps you stay organized in doing that. So I've run through a lot of information in under 10 minutes. In recognition of that, I am offering free 15-minute consultations on my calendar to be able to talk through how you can use some of these tools for yourself, or really consult you on some best practices for standing up your own competitive intel function. So if you are interested in that, you can schedule some time directly on my Calendly. That's calendly.com/Carly L. Cheton. You can also feel free to email me with some more in-depth questions at carly@luminabrandintel.com. And then you can also check out my website for learning a little bit more about my approach. Thank you so much for joining with me today, guys. I hope you found the information helpful, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you on potential next steps or any questions that you may have. Thank you.